Hey guys, it's Brad here again. Today I'm going to show you something which is really pretty advanced. It's all about change management. This is not that applicable for most Kademi users, but if you're managing really big programs, typically for corporate clients, paying out millions of dollars of incentives, and if they're really quite complex with complex payout rules and processes, onboarding processes, reminders and things like that, and you're actively managing those programs, you're making changes to it. If that's you, then this is a really important video for you, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to manage your program in a QA account, and then once you're ready, how to fairly automated way in a really robust process is bring those changes across to your production account. This way you're always going to have an opportunity to test your changes before it impacts on your real users. Now, it is important to understand that you don't need this. Not all users need this. Kademi's got great testing tools right across the board. So even if you aren't just using one account, you can set up your payout rules and you can test them before awarding any points. If you're importing data, you get a chance to see what that data is and validate it before it actually gets imported. Emails, we've got great tools for testing emails. And of course, websites have versioning, right? So before you apply any changes to the website for your program, you can test it completely in a draft version. So really good tools across the board for testing within a single account. But when you're talking about those big clients, especially if you're an agency client and you're managing a program, you actually need a higher level of confidence than you can get from that. I've got two accounts, and I've called one Acme QA and the other is Acme Prod, right? So what I want to do is I've got some changes that I've made here in the QA account. And actually all I've done is I've just installed a reward store solution. And then I've got this prod account, which is actually just a clean account, just created it fresh. And so I want to see, how do I bring across these changes after I've tested them and, got client sign off and all the rest of it? How do I bring that across to the production account? We've got this screen here, this page here in the menu called configurations. And this is the heart of the configuration management system. And we've got two main things here: snapshots and deployment items. Now, a snapshot is, as I said, it's a snapshot of the configuration of your account. Now, we need to draw a really important distinction here. There are sort of three types of information you can have in an account as far as, as Kademi sees it. You can have content, so things like blog articles and emails, right? You can have data, so that's your sales data, your list of users, your list of products, things like that. Then you have configuration, and configuration it's the structure of your account. So it's what groups you've got, your org types that create your organization hierarchy, what websites you have, what apps are installed in those websites. So those sorts of things are what we call configuration. Now, when you're going from QA to production, you only want to move the configuration across. And the reason for that is you're not going to have your production data in your QA account, because that's dangerous. You've got real users in your QA account. You could end up sending them emails and all sorts of things. You don't want that, right? So the data you have in your production account is only in your production account. If you're actually managing your production account well, that means you're putting fresh content in quite frequently, and you don't want to have to go through a QA to production process to publish a new blog article, for example. You just want to put that straight through the publishing workflow, but you don't want to have to go through a staged change management process. It's much too heavyweight. So it really is just configuration that you want to go through this process. So Snapshot will tell you what you have now in your QA account, and that's basically what you want to put into. You need to compare it to something to get a list of changes. Once you've got that list of changes, those are the things you're actually going to apply. And that's what we call a deployment item. So the process in Kademi is basically, ideally, you start with a baseline snapshot. You then make the changes to your account in QA. You then take another snapshot, and then you create a diff, find the difference between where you started and where you finished. That is the list of changes you're going to apply to production. Now, you may not have that initial snapshot, as in this case I'm going to show you now, in which case your baseline is just what's in production. Right, so what we're actually going to do here, take a snapshot from production. We're going to import that into QA. Then we're going to create a snapshot of the QA account. find the difference between the two, right? So that'll tell us what's different between QA and production. That'll be our deployment item. We take that across to production. And then we go through each of those changed items and apply them, which in most cases is done automatically. Okay, so that's quite a bit to take in, but let's run through it step by step. So here's my production account. I'm going to go to the configuration screen and I'm going to create a snapshot and I'm going to call this prod 1. So that is that snapshot. I can download it. You can see that's just called snapshot 4. So I've done this a couple of times already. So now I'm going to go back on a QA. I'm here on the same screen and I'm going to upload that snapshot. And I'm going to call it prod 1. Well, you know what? I'll call it prod baseline. There we go. All right. So now I create a snapshot of the QA account. So I'll call this QA to deploy. There it is. So that's my 2 snapshots. One's from QA and one's from production. So I go into QA. Now, one thing you'll notice, by the way, is a snapshot is huge. It's got so much information in it. You don't want to have to go and look through that by hand. That would be awful. And usually you only have a few changes. You know, maybe you've just changed some settings in a store or your points bucket or something like that. So while the snapshot itself is overwhelming, once you get a diff, it's actually usually pretty small. So it's given me the only option I've got is to diff this against the prod baseline snapshot. And there we go. So now this is telling me everything that's changed. And you see over here, it's actually telling me some things have been added. And here's something that's been updated. And that's actually just setting up the keys to connect these 2 accounts. So the reason why most things have been added here is because I've installed that new solution. So that's set up things like Hey Journeys and Hey Commerce, etc. All right. So I'm going to download that deployment item called deployment 9. And then I jump over here to prod and I'm going to upload this deployment item. Now I need to link accounts. And the reason for that is sometimes the system is going to have to reach out to that server and pull information from it. So it actually has to be able to log into that account. So click this button. Accounts, they're already paired because I did that in the last one. So I can just click next step, log in. Again, that's done. So again, that's created a login to the other server. So this server can then pull whatever content it needs or information it needs. Okay, so now I just need to choose that item, deployment 9, and upload it. So now it's showing me pretty much what I saw before. It's showing me all of the things which have changed between QA and production. Now, most of these things, it's actually just installing apps, right? So where it's got K toolbar, for example, new value is this, old value is nothing because it wasn't installed. So what's actually going to happen here is it's going to install these apps. Now, there are some things so that's what most of the stuff in here is just version changes. And versions are very important, by the way. That's a big part of what you're managing. But here's one which is not that. It's a points bucket. So we're creating a new points bucket. In this one, we're creating a new website. Updating versions is actually kind of really safe, most of the time. It is important to manage it, to know that you are changing versions, but it's pretty safe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do those first. So I'm going to go only show settings items, door, and then I'm going to apply automatically. All right, now that just takes us to the normal job details page. This can be a long-running process in some cases. Usually not. There we go. So that only took a few seconds. You can click show logs if you want to see exactly what it's done. There's a lot going on in there. But I'm just going to go back to this page. Still an only show settings items. They're all done now. That's why it's not showing anything. So I'm going to click on non-actioned items. Right. So now it's got me down to just a handful of changes. And this is kind of the most important stuff. It's telling me it's There's a e-commerce store that's going to be added. You can see it's linked to the RS1 website. It's going to create a new group, right, for my participants as part of that solution. If there were some changes that I didn't want to apply, I could just go ignore. And what that's going to do is it's just going to hide that away, right? And what that means then is I get this list of items that I can work through one at a time. What I can also do is sometimes some of these changes can't be applied automatically. So what you'll need to do is just go manually and make that change yourself. And then you can just mark that off by clicking applied manually. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click select all, and I want to apply them all automatically. Just wait for that to be done. There we go. Okay, so you can see here that there is this one item left. So that means here's this one item that can't be done automatically. The platform just doesn't support automatically creating stores at the moment. And there's a lot of things in Kademi, they're not all supported automatically. So what I can do is I can just go and create that. And I'll just put this one in. So the website is RS1. The title is RS1 Store. Created by, I can ignore. The name is, yep, that will have been defaulted to RS1. Cool. General. There we go. RS1 store. That's the same as what is here. So now that I've done that one, I'll just mark that off as having been applied manually. There we go. So now I've completed that process. Now, one more thing to comment on is what happens in the situation where you're about to start making a change. So you want to start working in QA, but quite possibly changes have been made to production that aren't there on QA. So the danger then is if you start making changes in QA is that actually you end up bringing stuff across to production later, which goes back, right? Takes you where you lose some changes. What you can do then is just do basically the same process in reverse. Just take from applying changes in production back to QA, and then you start working on your next iteration of your program in QA, knowing that you've got the latest from prod there. Still shouldn't, it still should be pretty safe because the normal process is you do compare what's changed between QA and prod. So if there is something different, you should, see it there and understand why. Is that a change I've made in QA or is it a change that someone made in prod? Great. So look, I hope that has helped. As I say, this is an advanced process, yet not needed for most users. Thanks for watching. Bye.